There are so many incredible individuals all around our country who are trying to make a difference. They're impacting their communities through their work, talents, and servant hearts. In this series, you'll get a chance to meet them. Welcome to 50 States, 50 Stories. Hey everybody, and welcome back to 50 States, 50 Stories. I'm Matt Marks. It's episode 3. We're here, episode 3. It's going to be a good one. And I've got a great friend here today with me, Spencer Marchand from North Dakota. Spencer, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. It's glad to be on here. I'm glad you chose me, and I'm excited to talk about North Dakota. I don't think a whole lot of people think about us. So
a lot of people are going to learn from this episode. I'm so excited. And so we were talking earlier. You were like, okay, we're going to have a drink for this episode. And of course we are. Right. So I've got my little repping Oklahoma with Bob Stoops tequila and a little lemonade right here.
That's right.
But you got a special drink here. What do you got?
I got the Dakota Soul beer. It's made by Summit Breweries. That's technically a Minnesota brewery, but this beer is made with 100% North Dakotan barley. So I thought I'd definitely give the support out to the home state, our ag producers here.
I love it. Well, repping the home state, and that's a great way to start right there. And I'm really excited. Spencer, you've got a great story. And this is going to be, I hope everyone listens through this whole way, because you're going to learn about North Dakota. You're going to learn about Spencer. And I'm excited because you are honestly, so how we met goes back to Oklahoma, right? There's been a trend here in the first couple episodes. It goes back to Oklahoma, OU. You spent some time your freshman year here at the University of Oklahoma.
Yep.
And I was really impressed just getting to know you, because you've got a great story. You're very passionate about serving your community and the community. I mean, wherever you find yourself, you're very passionate about it. And so you've just got an incredible story. And so again, Spencer, thank you for coming on today. I'm really excited about this.
Oh, I appreciate it. I think it'll be fun. And again, this is so excited with things going on. And I'm always excited to talk North Dakota. So, I mean, again, you got probably the biggest North Dakota fan on here. So,
and that's what I wanted to hear. All right. So I want to talk about where you grew up. You grew up in Harvey, North Dakota. I want to hear about Harvey, places to eat, attractions, and then also kind of what you're doing on a daily basis with your profession and your career right now.
Okay. Well, yeah, Harvey, North Dakota is the hometown. It's a really rural town in central North Dakota, Wells County, North Dakota. I think as of the 2020 census, our population was just right around 1,700 people, and that is the largest town in about a 45-mile radius. So just to give people a perspective, if you want to know where like the nearest Target, Walmart, or McDonald's is, it's about an hour and 15-minute drive away. So we're talking that rural.
Oh my gosh.
I think that's a far cry for most people. So, I mean, but I loved it. I loved it growing up. I mean, it's a different way of life. Again, it's not for everybody, but I sure enjoyed it growing up. Being in a rural area, it's very agrarian, very agricultural centric. So a lot of the things that you do for like a hobbies are very outdoorsy, hunting, fishing are big hobbies of mine, golf, really anything to do outside. We have a lot of good waters for some water sports, things like that. We have the Cheyenne and James River that go right through our county. The Cheyenne River actually goes through my hometown, and we have a reservoir with a beach. So there's just some things to do around town as far as things outside, swimming, hunting, fishing. You always just got to do something to find yourself busy outside. So that's kind of what I would say as far as hobbies go, generally where people gravitate. But, on that too, just a little bit about Harvey, I mean, places to eat, not a whole lot. We have a little Tasty Freeze, it's called. It's comparable to Dairy Queen. Maybe a couple people have heard it, a smaller chain. And then just a couple really local diners and cafes, and, just comfort food, and some foods that probably a lot of people haven't heard of too. Up here we have a big, lots of Germans from Russia and a big Norwegian heritage. So we have things like Nefla soup and Fleischkikla and cheese buttons and things like that. And most people are like, what in the heck is that? But just comfort food from our old heritage from the homesteaders that came over back in the day. So, so it's about that, good food, good hobbies. And then above all, I'd like to say is that the great people. That's why I came back. That's what I loved about it, is that you always talk about, people say Minnesota nice, Midwest nice, or North Dakota nice. And I would really say it's rural nice. When you get into some of these rural communities, you'll run into people that would literally give you the shirt off of their back, or if your car broke down in my hometown, you'd probably have 5 people willing to give you a hand. It's just, there's great people, very personable. And even if you're a stranger coming through town, they're probably going to wave at you and say good morning. So, that is what Harvey is right there above all things. It's the people, it's the great people.
That's awesome. And tell me a little bit about your journey, because you spent, like I said, we met in Oklahoma. So you came down for a year in Oklahoma, then you transferred out to University of Minnesota, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're back in North Dakota. Tell me what you've learned about your journey. I mean, you're going from North Dakota all the way down to Oklahoma, and then you're going back up north. What's that taught you?
Well, it's taught me that plans change, so, I mean, you knew when I met you too, that when I came down to the University of Oklahoma, I did it to study meteorology. All of my life, I had this love for meteorology and the weather. And, I thought I was going to do it my entire life. And I went down there, and then I just, not that I lost the love, but I realized it's not what I wanted to do for a career every single day. And that I thought if I were to do it as a career, it would kind of burn me out and I'd lose that love that I had for it. So my main reasoning for transferring is because of my major switch. I switched to a business degree in supply chain and operations management and public and nonprofit management. And the Carlson School at the University of Minnesota is a great school. And it was the right move for me at the time. And so, there was a lot of hectic moving in there, but, it did change, it did teach me that, changes happen in your life and that plans change, and you got to go and adapt to those changes. And so, all in all, it was hard, even, leaving friends like you and, some of the guys that I met there too. I met some really great people down in Oklahoma, but ultimately at the end of the day, it was the right choice, strategically from where I needed to go. And it got me the education that I needed to pursue where I am now in my career. So, the main thing is that it taught me to adapt to changes and to, bring on change as something, don't view it as negative necessarily, but just to, say, what's the right move and how do I best go about it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what you got to do, right? You got to figure out what's best, like you said, what's best for you and where you want to take your career. And before we get into, in a little bit, talking about a major career going in the right direction for you, something that you're, I know you're very excited to talk about. I'm excited to talk about with you. But I want to talk about your family's business and what you're doing, because this is really, really fascinating. Your family, I know, is big for you. Your family is in everything you do. It's about family. It's like you said earlier, it's about the people. I want to hear about what you're doing in the furniture business, correct?
Yep. Yeah. So actually, we're pretty diversified. So our whole parent company, if you will, is called Marchand Retail Group. And my brother and I came back together. I have an identical twin, as you know, and we're the third generation. So it was started by my grandfather and grandmother back in 1981. So this is actually our 42nd year in business. And tomorrow we're celebrating a sale at our main retail front to celebrate those 42 years.
Congrats.
But we do thank you very much. But we're in a couple industries. So the furniture, mainly home furnishings, furniture, flooring, major appliances, window treatments, home decor, etc. But then we also have a standalone bedding company that where my career is mainly involved with. Where we sell mattresses, adjustable bases, sheets, pillows, etc. And we have some exciting announcements too. We're actually looking to open up our second location, in Fargo, North Dakota, a standalone sleep shop to, showcase our wide array of unique products that I've had a lot of time in the development process with. So I'm really excited about that. I think that we have a really great array of products that are unique and bring their own story. So I'm happy to be in that industry and betting and getting those products to people that need and deserve a good night's sleep. So that's kind of my main thing with work. But like you mentioned, the family is where it's at. I work every single day with both my parents, my brother, and it can be hard at times because with family, you're a lot more. You expect more of each other. You would maybe say a little more blunt with each other than you would any other employer colleague. But yeah, I mean, it does make a difference. I mean, you all have the same goal and you collaborate, come together, and even in the hard times or the good times, you have to make sure that you're grounded in each other and can rely on each other to get the job done. So I've learned a lot. I went to school, got specialized in degree, but coming into business and doing it every day, you realize that you have a lot to learn and that you always have to continue to be learning. And so if you're coming out of college, you are, you think you might be done learning. Well, you're sadly mistaken. And I've learned that now. So but yeah, that's kind of where we are with the family business. It's been great. We have exciting things going on, but yeah, it's definitely been a lot of work, but rewarding work.
When you think 42 years, I mean, does that just seem like insane to you? Like, I mean, how special is that?
Well, yeah, it's a big accomplishment. I mean, when you go to the statistics that even in starting a business, about 93% of them fail within the first 5 years. And so it is a testament to get to 42. It has a lot to do with my grandmother and grandfather, and then both my mother and father too. In the second generation, they brought it to something that it never was. And now it's on my brother and I, taking on ownership here as we go along. It's up to us now to take that baton and to keep it moving, and keeping that energy to keep succeeding. And so hopefully we can see not 42 but 52, 62, who knows, but it's on us to keep it going now. So we've accepted that challenge. But
and so your business is in Harvey, right? It's right there in town, right?
Yep. So yeah, actually, our main storefront where it all originated now, we have about 24,000 square feet of showroom now. So we take up about a half a city block. So we're a pretty big presence in the city, but we do a lot of business over the region, even kind of, I would say almost over the state. We got to go 100 or so miles in each direction. So I mean, we're constantly going all over the place, but we're proud to offer a service and an array of products that small towns like us don't generally have. So I always like to say that it's like having a little bit slice of a big town in a really small town like this. But
yeah, I mean, that's great. I mean, think like too, what's it mean to you when you're talking about like a local business, right? You've got all these big businesses, big chains, but they don't offer everything a small town or a local business can offer. And how special is that you're playing that really, again, family, you're making connections with people, you're trying to serve the community. How important and special is that for you?
That's super important, in our hometown. And especially coming back, I've always had this sentiment, but even more so than ever, that, shop local, keep your local businesses alive. That's how you keep your communities alive. Whether it's, anything, it could be furniture, it could be, gasoline, it could be concrete work, contracting with building your house. It's important to keep all that business here in town and keep jobs and things afloat so that, a small town like us can continue to thrive, and, we can keep continuing to offer that way of life for, future kids growing up, et cetera. And, and that's right, though. I mean, small town businesses are generally, a lot easier to work with. They're more personal. And so we tend to offer services that big box stores, really wouldn't, because, to them, you're just a number. But to us, you're not only a customer, but almost a friend. And so, we know names, we know last names. And, when people come in the door, we recognize them. And so that is very important to me. And, and even that'll get into some of our future conversation too. But, the shopping local, keeping the rural community alive, that's super important to me. The rural community or the rural way of life is something that gave me so much in life that, I want to keep preserving that so it can give, that can be given to other people too.
Well, I love hearing you say that, Spencer, because in the chaotic world that we live in now, we need more people like you, because what you just said resonates with a lot of people. They just need a friend. They need somebody. And as you're building those connections with your clients, you treat them like that. You treat them like a friend, right? They're not just a number. More people, right. More people need to follow that model. I think that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to do, again, you have to go above and beyond after different things, or, just go out of your way to be a little bit more personable with people, which, but at the end of the day, when you take that extra effort, I think a lot of people will find that they find joy in that. Again, human beings are social creatures, in our intrinsic way of life. And so oftentimes, people find themselves a lot more, content with life, or finding a lot more joy in life when they're social and going out of their way to be lend a helping hand, or just to be a little bit more personable with other people. But
exactly. I agree with you, man. Well, this is a great segue to the next, because I want to talk to you about something amazing. And I'm just so happy for you. So earlier this year, you made a big announcement that you're starting a campaign. You're running for Wells County Commissioner.
That's right. Yeah.
And when I saw this, I'm like, yes. I wish I could come up there and vote. I will be there all the time. Can I come campaign for you? Because as I've seen, as I talked about at the beginning, you've got big things ahead for you in life. I mean, really, you are so innovative entrepreneur. You've got just such a good mindset, but you want to help people. And I want to hear about what went into this decision. Why was this the time right now to run? And I just want to hear the passion behind it of you running for Wells County Commissioner.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of comes back to what I touched on it a little bit too, is that, you know, I've always wanted to, you know, give my life to public service because, again, I want to serve the community that gave me so much growing up and throughout my life. And so that's kind of where I felt compelled. And it just seemed a little bit right because there's somebody, you know, a good family friend of mine, somebody I respect, who is on the board of county commissioners, who is stepping down. So it's really just an open seat. And so I said, you know, even me as a younger man, it's, you know, let's put my hat in the race. Let's do it. And, you know, I'm totally capable. I think I'd be good at it. And I've been met with so much positive remarks on it. I mean, people around the community are just excited. They come up to me and tell me how they love the move. So I'm really excited for the campaign. I hope it goes well. I'm confident it will. And so, you know, come next year, you know, at the end of November, you know, hopefully I'll be on that board of county commissioners.
So how's that process look like? I mean, is it just an election November, or is there, you know, primary vote or anything before that, or is it just straight to the election November? How's that work?
So there is a primary. The primary is June 14th. And so county commissioner in the state of North Dakota is a nonpartisan office. So okay. It's a nonpartisan primary on June 14th, and the top two will go to the general election on November 8th. As of right now, I'm not sure if there's in opposition to me yet. You know, I haven't heard anything. There very well could be, but you know, that's where it will be. There will be a primary June 14th, and then it will go to the general election, both nonpartisan. But
so what are your goals? What are you hoping to accomplish, you know, if elected?
Well, you know, I just shared this today too, just to give a little bit, you know, two things that you can expect from me as a commissioner is, you know, one of the most important things the Board of County Commissioners does is looks at the county budget, which will, you know, make an implication on people's property taxes. You know, we collect our money via the mill levy. And so, you know, property taxes, especially as of late, seem to be just going up the wall. And with prices of everything going up, you know, one of my things is that you can always expect me to look at the budget with a common sense approach to make sure that we're not overburdening taxpayers, first and foremost. I mean, that's just, again, it's one of the most important things that county commissioners do is approve the budget, but we need to make common sense, smart decisions, you know, look at something when it's a capital expenditure, you know, whatever it might be, and really delve into it, say, what is the common sense approach? Can we really afford this? What's the cost benefit analysis? Those types of questions, just to make sure that the citizens of Wells County are getting the best services, but not being overburdened with their taxes. Again, you know, I'd like to see, you know, maybe taxes go down, you know, maybe that could happen, you know. And so I think, you know, people pay a lot in property taxes already. And it's just one of my jobs to make sure that they don't pay more without getting more. So, but another thing is, you know, there's county commissioners, relatively administrative for the most part, you know, approving the bills, your portfolios, the county departments. But another thing though, too, is that I think it's important to be pro-industry or business on the board. You know, I mentioned, you know, Wells County keeping it able to thrive, but in the last 30 years or so, Wells County's population has declined by almost half. You know, we've seen so much urbanization, and communities like mine are getting much smaller. And so, but part of that is that, you know, there's when it comes to population, you need to have good paying jobs, you need to have available jobs. And so there's a lot of things going on great in North Dakota with foreign investments. Our Commerce Department for the state has been doing a tremendous job at bringing foreign and domestic investment in. And there's actually almost over, I should say now, $30 billion in the pipeline for investments in North Dakota. And so one thing I'd like to look at is how could I maybe bring some of that investment into Wells County, bring some jobs into Wells County. And so I think it's important to have somebody on the board who is really thinking about those things and giving incentives to drive industry and business here, so we can keep these communities alive and growing and well. But
yeah, I can tell the passion right there. Again, you got my vote. You got my vote, man.
I wish you could be up here and vote for me.
I wish I could too. Hey, so I want to ask you, as you look back on this decision and as you're mulling it over, I mean, you mentioned that your friend retired and that's why the seat is open, but also when you go through this decision to make a run like this, is there anybody that was like a mentor in your life that you're like, you really looked up to and still look up to, that are like, this is, or, you know, talk to them about advice that you're like, okay, this is why I'm going all in and starting this campaign?
Yeah, and there's a number, obviously like my dad is one. My dad, I often say, is one of the people that taught me what it means to be a man. And part of being a man is giving your time to other people or giving efforts to other people. But another person to note is my late grandfather, Leo. This is actually where I get my middle name from, is that, he was a great person. He was relatively modest and simple. He was extremely modest, I should say, but he was always somebody who gave his time to people, whether it was working at the food pantry here in town or volunteering his time to drive, cancer patients to Bismarck or Minot or all these faraway cities to, get chemotherapy or different treatments. He just did that because, he felt it was right. And so, I grew up watching that, and, it gave me a passion for service, or it gave me at least the notion of, him showing how important it is. And so, that's how I view, again, we always talk about running for political office, but, the real word is public service. And I think that people forget about the service part of that. But that's how I've always viewed it, is that, if you're going to get into public service, it should be you sacrificing some of your time and giving it to other people, in whether it's policy making, et cetera. But I think it's really important to do that. And so I've always had kind of the prerogative to do that sometime in my life. But, here it is, the time is now. And, but yeah, I would say both of those people are, very large influences on my life and the want to serve. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I love that. That's
Yeah.
inspiring to hear right there. And you're following in their way. That's what you're doing. I mean, with this, you're following their way. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I want to ask you, looking down the road, what are some of big goals for you in life? And I mean, you may not have an answer right now. You take it day by day. I totally get that. But what do you want to see, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now in doing?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and to, one of the big things is, there's some personal goals of mine just to become, it could be little things like being more physically fit, getting an increase in my spiritual life, things like that. Some other kind of goals of mine too is that, I have a wonderful girlfriend, and, one of my goals in life is to be a husband and a father one day. Who knows how long that would take, but just some small personal goals like that. I've always wanted those things in life. But as far as career and everything too, though, is I'd really like to see an advancement, in say, public service too. I've always had the goal, and again, maybe this won't happen because, just like I, had my encounter with Oklahoma, plans change. So you never know what'll happen in life. But in the next 5 years, I've always thought of, making a potential run for the North Dakota Legislative Assembly. I'd love to represent my district. I think I'd be good at it. And I think that, it would just be another way for me to give my time and efforts to making not only my district, but the whole state of North Dakota a better place. And beyond that, I've had some lofty goals in life too. I remember we've talked about it all the time too. And I actually remember it was in 5th grade when I had met our United States Senator, Kent Conrad, at the time. And nobody really cared. We're in 5th grade. We didn't really understand or care what he did. But I kind of paid attention, and I was like, well, that kind of seems like a neat occupation or job. And so ever since then, I always thought, I'm like, yeah, well, maybe one day I could be a United States Senator too, which again, that's, something that could very well not happen, could happen, but has always been kind of a goal at the back of my mind there. It's like, if I were to ever advance myself in public service, I think it'd be an end goal of mine to be one day in North Dakota's congressional delegation to Washington, D.C. Again, something I feel like I would just have the charisms for. But again, who knows? That's a lofty chance, and we'll see where life takes me. But just to kind of give you a little seed of maybe what I had thoughts in my mind, that would be it.
Well, those are some good dreams and goals right there. And I'll tell you, I've said it earlier, you're going to do big things, man. I see it for you. I'm so impressed with your story. And I mean, what you're doing with your family's business, and then you're really just latching on to the community, which honestly, we don't see a whole lot of, across our country, or we see, they don't get highlighted enough. I should say that. I should walk back on that. There are a lot of people all across our country that are really trying to impact their community, and they need to be highlighted. And that's really one of the big reasons for this podcast. And I'm glad that got to talk with you, because you're making that impact in your community. You're building those relationships. And so as you're making your run, you probably find it fairly easy. You get a lot of support because you've already established those connections, right? You've established those relationships. The community knows who you are. And I just, again, your story amazes me. And how old are you, Spencer?
I'm 24.
You're 24. See, and already doing all of this. And I tell you, man, I'm amazed. I'm amazed. So I want to, and because we talk politics a little bit, I want to end with your closing statement and with this question for you. Okay. Sure. If you had to describe your hometown in one word and the why, what would it be?
Home. And that sounds a little bit, that would be kind of a lame answer to most people. Well, of course it's your home. But in this sense, is that to me, home has always felt like a place where you can be safe, a place where you feel content, warm, a place that feels like nowhere else. And that's, this has always been home for me. It always will be. And that has to do with some of the things I touched on. It's the people, it's the way of life. It's different. And it's not for everybody, but it was definitely for me. So the way I would, in one word, I would just call it home. And again, I hope that's not too lame of an answer, but in that respect, where it's profoundly, captivated me throughout my entire life being here. And it's a place that not only I don't think I could ever leave, but even if I had to, it's a place I would never forget.
Man, I love it, man. Well, Spencer, you're making a difference, and thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for talking a little bit about Harvey, North Dakota. Again, if anybody's going up to North Dakota, we got a guy right here in Spencer. He can show you around.
Holler to me. I'll show you around.
Well, Spencer, I appreciate it, man. And thank you to everyone for tuning in to episode 3 of 50 States, 50 Stories. We'll catch you next time. Go out and make a difference. Take care.